Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Call the meeting to order at 7:01. Would you like to do roll call?
Keith Moyer,
I am here.
Joanna Ross, here. Jim Schlichter,
Here.
Randy McLean,
Here.
Jeff Jennings,
Yes.
Jason Brown,
Here.
Terry Linden, here.
We got a quorum. If everybody would stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Entertain a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor? Announcements.
We do. So first, I just wanted to give a shout out to our custodial crew. Last month, we kind of talked about our high school kids that were doing some maintenance work for us. And we wanted to shout out too to our custodial crew in all the buildings. They are doing a great job and trying to stay ahead of the game. Our goal is to be finished by next week so that buildings can, with the big thing, so that buildings staff can get in and start getting going, working in their classrooms, and hallways are looking good and classrooms are getting cleaned. So we appreciate all the hard work. They've been doing 410s this summer, so that they've enjoyed having the Fridays off, but 410s makes for a long day, but they've done a great job. So it's a lot of work to get into every single classroom and get them deep clean, and all the bathrooms and the locker rooms and the kitchens and cafeterias and all the hallways, every little part of our district we try to get deep clean in the summer. So we appreciate all that they do. Wanted to give them a shout out. And then also we've got Mr. Zur is here, if he'll come up. We've got, so we wrote a grant to start Project Lead the Way at our middle school. And Mr. Tom Zur was in that classroom this year and kind of assessed what we needed. He's got Project Lead the Way experience from his previous employment. And so we're excited to start several STEM opportunities through Project Lead the Way next school year. And he's been doing a lot of training this summer, in a variety of realms. And we wrote several grants to DESE that they're finalizing, and so we should have information on those soon. But they're 50-50 grants, which would give us a lot of equipment that we're needing and technology that we're needing to be able to start these programs. And so with that, I'm gonna let Keith kind of take it over a little bit. Keith's company has a sister company that is going to donate something to our district, to Mr. Zur's classroom.
Yeah, so not to be too talkative about it, but when I got on the board 10 years ago, one of the things that I really wanted to focus on was STEM. And so it's exciting that we're doing these kind of things and adding this kind of opportunities for our kids. So the opportunity came up recently where, again, the company I work for has a sister company. That sister company sells these robots. This was a demo unit that they had. They've got the next generation coming, and this was going to be sitting on the shelf. So I simply just said, hey, I'd like to make a donation. And luckily my CEO approved it, so he was kind enough to give us this robot. So this is an educational-based robot that it's primarily designed around. It's a 6-axis collaborative robot. And there's free programming software. It's got a curriculum that goes with it. It's kind of meant for education. So pretty excited to be able to bring something like this to the school.
Come on, get a picture of both of us.
Ned.
Yes.
His name is Ned.
Yeah.
I wish that he was programmed and ready to go, but maybe that's something that we can have the kids come in and do.
I'm working on that.
I can do without. Nope, I'll get it without. There we go. Ned. We're anxious to see what Ned does. Awesome. So, do you know anything about?
I know a little bit about it. I've done a little bit of programming with some robots in Robot C and a little bit of microblocks and things. Know a little bit about Python, so I'm sure this one's going to be pretty similar to that. But I know we have some kids in this community. I've already found some of them that take this and really run with it. My job as an educator has been to put stuff in front of kids, ask them questions, get them to asking questions, and then together you start finding answers and finding solutions. So that's what STEM's all about. And it's been a fun 36 years so far, and I anticipate several more. working with the kids that are here. I've really enjoyed the community atmosphere and culture here at Elk Grove. It's pretty special. It really is, in the different districts that I've worked with. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So, really enjoyed to be here. I've got a lot of stuff, you and I talked about a lot of things, what we can do, to help kids.
You wanna talk about some of the programmings that we've written, some of the programs we're gonna be implementing next year?
Okay, well, a lot of the stuff we're gonna try to do is based on Project Lead the Way, in addition to still kind of reforming the Woods Lab that are there. Sometimes kids just need to expose themselves to just tools, and the Woods Lab is a really good place for that. We had some kids already starting to build the birdhouses and using the tools of our time. We have new saw stop in and doing that. Makes me feel comfortable. We let kids use stuff and not worry so much about safety issues. But we got kids with nail guns and stuff in there. So we're kind of updating that. That's pretty fun. But we'll do design and modeling. We'll be able to do all of the Project Lead the Way Gateway Middle School curriculum as of this fall. I'll be certified in 9 out of the 10. And so I've done design and modeling, which we use Inventor, which is a industrial software. We're gonna get in some more automation and robotics, which the kids can program along with this one here. We got another level up, so I always like to have another level up for kids. We'll do green architecture, so the kids can design houses. So I've done a couple of my own houses and built some of those, so got a little expertise there. We'll do some things with science and technology, which is along the microbit, I guess you know microbit, but micro type stuff, and to microbit as well, which is computer science innovators and makers. We have these little microbit mini computers that have inputs and outputs. Really cool stuff. And I got myself a little bit more updated on that one. Energy and the environment, STEM-wise, and flight and space. The STEM program with that. And then, of course, I do medical detectives too, so I've got a science background, so I've enjoyed some of that, and I'll feed some of the other teachers that information, so. Anyway, just a lot of stuff to check out, Project Lead the Way, and there's a lot of stuff in the Gateway program. So we'll do that in addition to all the other things we do.
Are there certain classes that the Project Lead the Way is associated with, or is it above and beyond the school day?
It's in the elective classes, if that's what we do too, yeah, and, trying to figure out what best fits for the kids here. I know we have kind of 6th grade, there's a small smattering of those in the 7th grade, and then there's more of the 8th grade curriculum that we have there. So trying to figure out how that fits. Obviously, I need to get a little more in tune with the kids. Other schools on that, we figured out how the career connections work with kids. We need to figure out what the community wants. We need to figure out what the parents want, you know, and start guiding that into the STEM program. Obviously, the middle school is one part of a big part of the whole thing. So, find all those stakeholders and figure out what they need and what they want, and try to give the kids some expertise in that. My idea is to home grow engineers. I started doing that the last place I was at, and the businesses started chipping in, put in tens of thousands into that program, and other schools do that too. And I'm sure that the community will do something similar. So, but one piece of the puzzle, so.
And our CSIP talks about implementing this at the middle school level, and then after we implement it all the way through, then we can start a program and implement it at the high school level as well.
And just think, we gotta get kids to do stuff. I grew up on a farm and I did, and kids nowadays don't have that for whatever reasons. Some of it's just tools and stuff, and that's kind of what we gotta do, focus on the kids that, you know, the industrial part, not necessarily just the, fun stuff. There's some maker spaces and stuff that's out there, but, yeah, we'll update some of the 3D software, and I suppose some CNC and laser engraving and stuff like that will come into play, and they're all tools, just all tools, so. If you got any questions, or you wanna stop in, give me a holler, and, be happy to chat with you.
We appreciate you what you brought to the district. Thank you so much.
Do you want to take this bad boy home with you guys?
And thank you, Keith, for that. That's
I guess I
awesome.
can run it over in the classroom, yeah.
We kids over there. Just a second.
for effect.
Perfect. That was it.
Got it?
He
The other,
did
I don't think.
It's nothing, like, she's January, February, show us what he does. One of the grants is a whole bunch of cards.
Yes, you did.
They build it, they build it, so. Very good. Awesome.
Gotcha.
Great. Thanks, both of you. Appreciate it.
On your hand.
Yeah.
Move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion in a second. For the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Jim? Thank you, Randy. I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. All in favor? That's everyone. And now there's action items.
We do. First one is Fund 1 to Fund 4 transfer. So we look at our fund end of the year balances from last school year, 22-23. I printed out here what our fund balances are. So we're at right at $5 million for Fund 1. Fund 2 is at 0, which it always is. We never have enough money in Fund 2 to pay all of our teachers. So we usually transfer some point in the year from Fund 1 to finish paying Fund 2. Fund 3, which is our debt service, so that's what pays off our lease services and our bond, is right at 4.6 million. And Fund 4, which is all of our capital improvements, is 1.5, almost 1.58 million. So if we leave these numbers as the year ended, it would end the year at 23.11% reserves. So the reserves is our Fund 1 and Fund 2 balance total, and what percent of our total budget that is. So reserves never takes into account Fund 3 or Fund 4 because they're earmarked so differently. So the conversation is like, what is our goal as a board? What is it that we want a goal of our reserves to be? Because we can leave the fund balances as they are at 23%. A healthy reserves, auditors will tell us, and Tom and I talking, healthy is 20 to 25 for a district our size. Another thing we can do is we're eligible for an $800,000 transfer, which is going to take $800,000 and move it to Fund 4. So part of that is when we're looking at our facilities planning and our long-term planning, being able to have money in Fund 4. So the way we get money right now into Fund 4 is we have a little bit of revenue that comes into Fund 4, but mostly it's when we set our tax levy this year, we put 10 cents going for instead of going to Fund 1, we put 10 cents that was going to roll into Fund 4, which we've used with our track, and we've done a lot of summer projects throughout this year. So if we do transfer the $800,000, it will leave Fund 1 at 4.253 million. So which would leave our Fund 4 balance, would put it at like 2.3, almost 2.4 million. So my recommendation is to do that. That would leave us at 20%, 20.2% reserves. 20 is still healthy. We are, no matter what happens with assessed evaluations, even if it just goes to the 15% cap, reminder, I budgeted a 10% increase. If they do the 15% increase, it's even going to be more revenue than we had expected. So I do feel that we'll see those reserves go up a little bit more again next year, but it gives us a healthy Fund 4 balance. So a few things that we can do with that is we can look at additional lease purchase. We can look at doing some like the windows at the elementary and the lines at the elementary, or those things that we can start doing in-house through budgeting rather than having to have a bond or a lease for. Tom and I sat in on Friday. Tom had contacted Coriel Roofing. They came and did a huge roofing inspection, very thorough, very detailed roofing inspection of every roof in our district, and graded it for us and told us estimated cost for repair as well as estimated time frame that these repairs or replacements are going to need to be done. So we can incorporate that into a 5-year plan, but some of them are right at that 800,000, 1.2 million, which could be done in a Fund 4 project, just in a summer project, rather than needing to do a bond for, so we can save those bonds for some bigger project, like auxiliary gym, and some other elementary cafeteria, some of those things. So my recommendation is to go ahead and make the Fund 1 to Fund 4 transfer, which leaves us at the 20.2. Unless this board says that their goal is really that 25% reserves. And we need to have a conversation to keep it.
Can you remind me what will repopulate Fund 2 that's currently over 0?
Local dollars. State and local dollars, what we get in. Yep, so we never get in enough state fund formula dollars that goes in. Fund 2 just pays our teachers, certified teachers. Fund 1 pays your certified staff, and it's all of your general supplies. So we never get enough state dollars to fully pay all of our staff. Nope, no school does. So we always do have to do a transfer from one to 2 to zero out 2 to give us enough money to zero out 2. We don't want to be negative in 2, and we usually not going to have excess.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I like what you guys are doing this summer, the things that have been neglected for years, that your summer being addressed and you make it a plan to move forward. I think it's awesome. I'll make that motion.
I will second that.
Any questions, comments? I have a motion and a second to approve Fund 1 to Fund 4 transfer as presented. All in favor? Say aye. On to the 2023-2024 OT contract.
Yes, so last month we moved this out, which was a good learning experience, because of the cost. So our OT contract is paid at a per hour rate, and what that ends up being every year, we never know because it's gonna be based on student services. So it could always go over the threshold, but it may not. But also because it's a specialized service dealing with instruction of kids, and we are looking specifically at, the reason we're looking at the switch is we are looking at ocular motor, Bella Vista X, a specific type of sensory integration that we're wanting our OT to help provide students as well as training for our staff. So since it's a specialized type of training, both of those two contrasts would avert needing to be board approved based on our sealed the bidding process. So this is again, the OT contract, $65 an hour, with Grow Pediatrics, and the reason I'm super excited about moving to this, like I had said, I've worked with Grow Pediatrics in the past, but they're so specialized in sensory integration and ocular motor visual perception issues that students have, but they also really work closely with staff at the primary and elementary levels to provide some quick interventions and classes they can do for all students just to help brain neurons, brain pathways, and to help with gross motor skills. So, it's exciting.
Yeah, and I appreciate looking into that. I think it's important to be able to note the sole source determination so that you are awarding the contract, based on that.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing, I think because it says that the contract can be effective immediately upon signature and broken by either party, just watching that threshold just around a not to exceed threshold would be, because then it keeps you from getting billing beyond, and then you could maybe relook at the contract if it needs to be amended moving forward.
Okay.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the 2023-2024 OT contract as presented.
That motion.
Jim?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? That's everyone? Everybody's been waiting for policy updates.
You read them all?
I did.
Yeah.
So this is third reading, so hopefully there's no concerns or questions. The reason I like to do 3 readings is policy is important, and it gives us plenty of time to look through it and talk and ask any questions that we have. So that we are approving the policy update with the one amendment, which I'll have to give specifically to Christine. I don't know if I earmarked, oh, I have it here. What the one amendment is to just the wording under the reading assessment plan, which is instead of beginning at, that they would assess at the beginning and end of the year, they're going to assess on December 31st on policy IL1. So we'll just approve with that additional amendment.
I'll make that motion.
Jeff?
I'll second.
Terry? Any questions, comments?
I just curiosity, do you see 681 having more impact on future policies?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I know.
I say something every month, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. It's that omnibus bill, as I said, I think it started at 16 pages and ended up at 600 or something. It's all right.
I think it's finding balance because even a school district our size, I mean, a lot of our positions are maxed. I mean, our staffing are maxed, and there's just so many additional things that, at what point is it gonna require additional? Well, it has, I mean, between data specialists and, you know, there's just a number of positions that school districts didn't have 10 years ago because we didn't need to have that information to give it to somebody because of a law. Or, so it does create, it creates more work, for sure.
Well, it's just another example of an unfunded mandate. I mean,
Right.
it just, the
Yep.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for approval of the MSBA 2023B policy update. All in favor? Okay, move on to the non-resident tuition rate for the
Yes.
next school year.
Yep, so every July, we approve the non-resident tuition rate. So this is for a student that wants to come to Oak Grove that doesn't have residency within Oak Grove. Our board policy says that students are allowed to pay tuition, but we have to set that tuition rate every year. And we set that tuition rate by pulling those numbers off of DESE website. They tell us what year, they take all of our, we submit data in the ASBR, and they tell us what our per year expenditure per ADA per child is, and it's always the year prior. So last year, we spent 10,423 students per child at Oak Grove. So that is what the tuition rate would be set for next school year, 10,423.
And I appreciate that you spot on hit the dollar rather than just having a general figure like we've used in the past.
Yeah, it's easier, it's more justifiable.
Yes.
And that's our spend.
Yep.
average, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so, and it fluctuates every year based on what what our revenues are and what we expend out, but per expenditure, per attendance, per student. We have parents call and inquire. Last year, we did not have anybody pay tuition. I don't know years previous. I mean, I know there had been in the past, but as far as the numbers and who knows. And I've had a couple ask if open enrollment ever passes, does this go away? No, because there's still people who, if we would max, we'd have to decide as a district how we wanted to handle that, but if we maxed out the open enrollment numbers, we would be still allow tuition numbers. So we would just have to have that conversation if and when that ever comes into play.
I was wondering, this is what we spend, and I'm just more of curiosity, but the money we get for a said student, how much does that offset?
And we get about $6,333 per student from state,
Right.
so the rest comes from local. Mhm. And that's just per student, so then and that's just instruction costs.
Right.
Did I say construction? Instruction,
Instruction.
not
New.
construction.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion. And a second for the approval of non-resident tuition rate for the 2023-2024 year school year at $10,123 per student.
Second.
Jim, Jason, a motion and a second. All in favor?
I'd like to accept it, but I can't.
You want me? So it,
I can say
yeah, I'll just let you go ahead.
I'll give you the floor.
Yeah. I'll give
Well,
you-
I'll just say, it has been my utmost honor and pleasure to be a board member here in the Oak Grove School District. And it's actually the saddest thing that I've had to do is to step away because of a conflict of interest that I tried to work out. But I always say you gotta do what you have to do in certain ways. And because I took a job change, I'm now the Chief Program Officer at the Children's Services Fund of Jackson County. It creates a conflict of interest because the district will start to receive funds, and hopefully this initial contract that's coming through is the first of many that will be coming over time. And so because of that, I have to step away. Should that conflict ever be resolved, it would be my intention to run again. However, for the best interest of myself and the district, I am submitting my resignation effective the end of this month, so Monday. So I appreciate all of you and all the work that you do, and I have so appreciated Mindy seeing you come in and the work that's going on, and I just can't wait to see it continue. And before I was on the board, I sat in the audience, and I'm sure you will see me sitting in the audience again, because I'm still a patron, and I still care for the district. So thank you all for your service. Thank you to the administrators that are here. I definitely miss my Monday evenings.
Well,
So,
we are sad, but I think it just speaks to your character that you're looking at this, and it's the selflessness of you so that the district can continue to receive those funds. So that just speaks to who you are, and we're still gonna use you and your knowledge and your resources.
absolutely.
And next month, we'd like you to still come back so we can formally recognize you and give you a little parting gift and thank you for your service. But you know, Joe, you've been instrumental in our preschool program and getting that all-day preschool grant started last year. And then as a district, we've already written a grant. We're receiving $250,000 for Trauma Smart training for the next 3 years, and that is for the Children's Service Fund. So that's where the conflict starts, and then I've already got a large grant started for the spring for some mental health services additional for our students. So good things to come, but it's the parting gift is that you have to step off the board, so I hate that.
Your insight has been invaluable.
Yeah.
And how much a conflict of interest could there be?
Well, when we're gonna start getting some big money.
When she writes the district a $250,000 check, a little bit, and that's the small amount. The big amount's gonna be next year. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, too.
yeah.
Did we get a
Thank you.
vote on this? or-
Yes,
Go back to that. Go back to that.
definitely not making a motion.
Yeah, nobody taking a motion or voting.
Well, I don't know that you have to approve it, but you're gonna have to approve filling the vacancy.
Yes,
So-
that's what we're approving. I did attach board policy for vacancies, and we are 8 months, well, 8 months? Did we say by the time they would be on, it would be 8 months? So we need to determine, we need to approve the current vacancy and determine what that will be, what that will look like.
I don't know if we had a chance to look at the policy, but it's similar to what we went through with Sue resigning 10 months ago, 12 months ago. So our policy states that we have to, and I may not get all the details right, but we have to basically post it, put it in the paper, it's gotta be on our website, it's gotta be on our website for at least 2 weeks. Basically saying anybody who's interested in being appointed to the board to basically send me an email. And then we as a board can discuss it. Last time we did that, and we kind of got our applicants, and then we asked another set of questions, and then we had a vote and appointed somebody. So that's kind of what the process looks like.
So it's your thought to do that at the August meeting?
Yes, we have to run this for 2 weeks. So yeah, hopefully we have all that information gathered. Yeah, and we'll make a decision by the next board meeting. And it's up to us. I mean, unless we wind up deciding we need a second round. We can bring, if you look at the policy, we can bring them in for interviews if we want. So we can do, it's gotta be an open session. We can bring them in for interviews and we can do it that way. So it's
There's
not-
no
it's not like-
timeline in the selection process.
Right.
So, you know, if we take applicants and we feel like we can make a decision based on that, if we feel like once we look at those applicants that we need to do something more,
Okay, so we can address that in August, and we should have.
Yeah, exactly. So we can decide then.
Make that the deadline for when you need to reach out to you, and then we're
Right. Yeah, and then I'll share all the letters or emails saying, hey, I'm interested with you guys, and we can discuss, and we can decide whether we want a round of, you know, last time we asked, hey, expand on why you want to be a board member, what you think you can do, and then those that were interested, fill that out, and we make a decision from there.
In the meantime, Devon has to come to the meeting and be there.
no, until Monday.
Well, you know, I just have to say, that the grant was already moving forward, the initial grant, before I started at the Children's Services Fund. I should just make that really clear.
Yes.
But because Mindy is such a great grant writer, I was told when I talked about the conflict, he's like, I don't see why it wouldn't go forward. So, just to make.
Well, big shoes to fill. Giovanna's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Good place.
Yeah, there isn't some.
I need a motion and a second to approve the notice of a board vacancy.
Oh.
No one wants you.
So this is very, okay. This is it. Okay, this is what we've been waiting for. Okay, go ahead. Someone make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I don't know if you can.
Make a motion.
I'm still on the board.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
I think you better abstain.
We can stay here all night.
It's not gonna hurt my feelings, just do rock, paper, scissors, and then that can be listed.
Let me just write down a random name.
There you go.
There's an auto generator, we can
Who's
put
the
that.
first on the voting?
Yeah.
I think the two newest members. Yeah.
There you go.
Look at them, they're like,
I'll do it.
Thank you, Jason.
I'll second.
Thank you, Terry. I have a motion and a second to approve the notice of the board vacancy. All in favor? It's still a vacancy. It's still a vacancy. It's still a vacancy even if we, I mean, otherwise we're leaving it vacant. That's the
right.
problem. So we're not voting on anything related to
Her.
her. We're voting on the fact that there is a
You're not
vacancy.
voting me off the
And we,
island.
She got in the boat and left on her own.
That's right.
Didn't take us with her.
Yeah.
Randy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 6.
And I will abstain.
Deep size.
Okay. Science group.
Mr. Ellington, come on up.
Mr. Sucky just run the computer there for me. If you remember earlier this year, the board adopted new science resources, new textbooks, K through 12. The new textbook is not curriculum. Curriculum is probably the easiest way to describe curriculum is the what of teaching, and the teachers determine the how. So what we wanted to do is, it's a perfect opportunity for us to develop a new science curriculum, give it a full review, and start that process. And every year we'll have a new content area. Next year is going to be social studies. We've already determined that. So we've got a first draft of our science curriculum. So I just want to take you through that real quick. Go ahead, Coach. The purpose of it, and here's kind of a table of contents, and you'll see we've got every grade level. And one of the things that was extremely important to us was that there was continuity. As students move through the system, there's continuity. So the vocabulary terms they see in kindergarten are the same terms they hear in 5th grade, and 8th grade, and 10th grade. So that's one of the things that's very important to us. But at the same time, this is just more of a framework, because we still want teachers using their skills and instruction and strategies to do the day-to-day lesson plans. So Coach, go ahead and go down. I want to recognize some of our committees. Some of these we've done before. The Science Resource Adoption Committee, that's the group that helped select those resources earlier this year. Our department chairs have been in place now for a couple of years. We'll have a little bit of turnover there. Coach Leon is moving over to the Special Education Department. But our Science Writing Committee, they spent many hours this summer really developing this resource. So at the primary, we had Sarah Vasquez, Paige Smith, and Melissa Heitzelman. Elementary had Rachel Smith, Michelle White, Mindy Wemmel. Middle school is Mike Phillips, Megan Kemp. And then the high school we had Kim Roadcap, Jamie Donovan, and then Chris Smith really was instrumental at the district level. Go ahead, Coach. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of show you this next diagram. It might be a little hard to see, but this is what we call a scope and sequence. So here's the state standards that DESE puts out for science. Thanks, Coach. They really break science down into life science, earth science, physical science, and then engineering and technology. And then they break each one of those concepts down into priority standards or important standards. So one of the things we can do with our teachers is show them where these standards start to come into our curriculum. For example, earth and space science in kindergarten, they don't even touch on this third standard. So that tells our kindergarten teachers, okay, I can focus in other areas. And it's kind of interesting, because here in life science, you'll see a gap in middle school. It doesn't mean that they forget about it, but I think it really helps our teachers where they can focus on more important areas. Another thing that we can do is we can take these highlighted as darker shades, 5th grade, 8th grade, and then high school. Those are our standardized state tests, MAP tests, and EOCs. So that helps our teachers identify what areas they really want to concentrate on. And we picked out the most important standards. So the earth science standards really show up in 5th grade. You'll see more physical science standards in 8th grade. And of course, in high school, they take the biology EOC and all of these. But there is also some earth science in the high school EOC. So that's important for our teachers to be able to see that. And that's just one of the scope and sequences that we can give our teachers, and I really think that helps them in the classroom. So after that, why don't you go down to 6th grade, Coach? So this document's 158 pages long. Don't let that intimidate you. It's really, so if I'm a classroom teacher, here's how I use this. So I can use those items that I already talked about. That's 2nd grade, yep. So if I'm a classroom teacher, if I'm a 6th grade teacher, really all I need to focus on is the 6th grade content area. So when I pull that up, let's say I'm a brand new teacher to the district, what am I teaching? That's every teacher's first question when they come in a new district. Okay, here's my 6th grade science. This is what's called a pacing guide. This is just a rough calendar of what I'm going to be teaching throughout the course of the year. So the first thing that I teach is science investigation. I know that it's approximately a 30 days of instruction unit. I can see, and that's just color coded here. There's 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter. This is just a pacing guide, and that takes them through each one of their individual units. So that gives me already an idea. I have a pretty good idea on what I'm going to be teaching. Going to go down one more, please, Coach. So I can go to that science investigation unit, and this is what's called a unit of instruction. This tells you, once again, the length of days. Here's the state standards. We call those priority standards. Those are the most important ones that they're going to see. Those are the ones that are going to continue into 7th and 8th grade as well. And then we also have just the Missouri Learning Standards attached to those. What essential questions do they need to be asking students? What are the main concepts? Scroll down for me just a little bit, please, Coach. Thanks. The learning targets. What are we looking for our students to be able to do? How we're going to assess those, whether it's daily assessments, and then larger assessments, maybe an end of a project or different, could be a test. That's not always an assessment as a test. Here's their new resources that they're going to use, and then we're continuing to develop these, and that's one thing that this is always being evaluated and updated. So this document, it's never static. So it's constantly being updated. So as teachers teach these units, now they're going to go back and they're going to really update these. Okay, I found a really great lab that we can use in this resource. So that's when we developed this curriculum, the big thing that we wanted to focus on was usability. There's a lot of curriculums out there in school districts. It's such a huge document and there's so much in there, it's hard for teachers to actually put it to work. So we wanted to keep this small. We wanted to make it usable for teachers. This particular unit, go ahead, just a couple more. There's only 4 units for 6th grade right now. That was the first unit. Here's the second one. The next 2 pages are the 3rd and the 4th one. So if I'm a classroom teacher, that's how I access that. I can see my scope and sequence. I can look at my yearly calendar, and then I can pull up those individual units. But I still develop my own lesson plans because I know the instructional strategies that work best for my kids, and I'm the best at teaching it also. So that's kind of our science curriculum in a nutshell. If you go on down past these, Coach, it'll take you all, we've got them up through sophomore biology, which is where they take the EOC. We're continuing to work on the remainder of our high school science classes. Kim Roadcap's working on chemistry right now, and then the actual teachers are working on their individual units. Those will also become part of this document. We added Missouri from DESE, the K-12 progressions. That's similar to that scope and sequence. But you can see here's a really good example of how this is such a huge document, really hard to navigate if you're, especially a young classroom teacher. There's so much there, it's almost overload. So we try to really clean it up and pare it down where it made it usable. And then I just attached the Missouri Learning Standards at the end of that. So that's why it's such a huge document. It's really pretty simple. Our plan moving forward is when we come back to school in August, we're going to have some PD for our teachers. Chris Smith and I are going to go to faculty meetings. We're going to take our teachers through this so they know how to use it. Chris Smith and I are planning on being in classrooms, so if teachers have questions about this, how can we go in, help them put this to use, how to update it after they finish a unit, and things like that. So we've got some PD attached with this also. This will be on a 6-year cycle. This will be annually updated, but then every 6 years we'll go back and do a full review because the science standards change roughly 6 years, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. These are all tied to the next generation science standards, which are the national science standards as well. So every year we're going to come with updates, and then next year we'll bring social studies to you as well. But We want it to look very similar to this, so it's consistent. So if I'm an elementary teacher, now I have to worry about all of them. I don't only have to worry about science, but I'm going to worry about social studies next year. So we want the format to be the same so it makes sense to them.
And all staff will have access to all the science staff, so they can see where kids have been and where they'll be going.
Absolutely. This will be,
And for transparency, it'll be on our website.
this will be on our
Parents
website,
can view.
and we've got a shared drive in Google, so every teacher can see, it's kind of a curriculum hub, where every teacher can get in there and pull up this document.
Good deal.
So I saw that the new textbooks that were adopted are listed as a resource. Is there a way that it's also gonna highlight sort of which chapters of those texts are associated with the various units?
Absolutely. Coach, if you could flip to second grade for me, they actually, in this copy, they linked directly to, because their textbooks are online, they actually put the link in here, and I saved it as a PDF, so go down towards the resources tab, a little bit farther down, Coach. Oh, there's one right there. So, and that'll take them right into their textbook, which is what we wanted. There's no, they can print this if they choose, but I don't think they'll need to. So it's that, and that's what we wanted. We wanted them to use it, and we wanted to make it accessible and efficient for them. Our curriculum writing team did a fantastic job. They spent a lot of hours this summer.
So in the sense of continuity, are the lesson plans that they write up, are those on the same form across, or are there different formats that happen?
Lesson plans, teachers they have particular lesson plans that they like, and I don't want to take that away from them. Some things work better. I think one of the things that is we're going to continue to update this, but if we find something that really works, like a model lesson, we'll put that in here, and that's kind of where, these are shaded because we know we're still going to update these, and there's nothing here, because that's what we want to go here. So methods of instruction. I've got a great lesson, it was fantastic, I want to put it in here, so every teacher can use it. So that's kind of our focus as we continue to update this.
But are there core components of their plans that are similar across?
Yes,
That-
yes,
that must be
that's kind of,
included?
if you go up just a hair, like some of these, like some formative assessment, this particular unit doesn't have any, but if they find a really good, thumbs up, thumbs down, or some sort of instructional strategy or particular, virtual lab that they found in their textbook, that was great for my kids, so we'll put that in there so everybody can use it, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you and Chris both. Chris, your mom had a big medical emergency, and she couldn't do anything, but a lot of hard work that they're leading, but the staff have put into it as well.
So is the course of the alignment following the same steps as the new textbook adoptions?
Yes, so they're already looking at social studies textbooks, so then next year we'll work on the social studies.
And our ESSER 3 funds did cover all of our science, so that came from ESSER 3, so it was very nice.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments? Okay. Motion to approve the 2023-2024 science curriculum.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Randy. Motion in a second. All in favor? Discussion items.
We do. Jennifer's checking out that little clip.
Okay.
He knows that I'm not texting. It's not the front. Oh, my gosh, I'm up. Okay.
You are up. I'll make this quick. I know you guys are probably standing between you and home, maybe. Hello, my name's Jennifer Mossbach. I'm the director of Oak Grove, and tonight we have, I'll let them introduce because their title, so.
My name's Daniel Palmer. I'm an operations manager for kind of Midwest, Central, sometimes South Missouri. So I'm kind of new to the Oak Grove area, but I'm here to just kind of support Jennifer, introduce myself to you all. I'm hoping, all things considered, I'll be in the district a couple times every couple of weeks. So that's the plan anyway. We'll see how that happens or how that goes. But yeah, I just want to introduce myself. Thank you guys for your partnership with us. And if I could take any credit for the food she made, I'll do that too. So.
And then we also have.
I just made the connection. Stan's your dad.
Stan Palmer?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I told you he knows everybody. He knows
I live in Concordia, so that's 30 minutes away. What was your name? I'll have to.
Randy McLean.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Morgan Ramey, Director of Operations for Mid-Missouri. So Oak Grove is new to my territory. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having us and for your partnership.
I'm very, very excited because these two, Oak Grove, I feel like I'm like the lazy Susan of territories. Sometimes I go to Kansas, sometimes I go out with the other country districts, but they rerouted the territory, and Daniel and Morgan are both very hands-on. Because in the past I've had other bosses, but it's these two are just, they like to be involved, and they said they were going to come tonight, and so I just appreciate you guys' support being here. And Mark Blight, he is the business development, so he is the one that will pop in to central office sometimes and see you. I'm excited to be here and showcase our food service program and brag about the amazing Oak Grove Lunch Ladies, making it through COVID, and then losing our grocery distributor was huge. And in Oak Grove, we actually went almost 6 months without a distributor. We were one of the longest districts, us in Lexington. And on that note, I have to thank, oh my gosh, so Tom Huffington and Mindy and everyone for their patience. Tom actually went down to Restaurant Depot with me and pulled groceries off the shelf and loaded up carts. And Jeff Webster and Dave getting the football trailer. I cannot drive the football trailer, so most of the time I took my truck, but it took a village, and I have to tell you, the managers in every single building had to step up and run the kitchens themselves because I was just getting groceries and delivering them to the schools. So it took a village, and Mindy and all the administrators and the building principals were so supportive. If I couldn't find one thing, I would get something else. And so the building administrators were very supportive as well. So making it through that, we definitely persevered, and we made the students' day no matter what. And it's one thing about Oak Grove I'm so proud of is we still continue to have a la carte items. I still went out and got those, and we tried to keep the menu almost exactly like it was, so parents would not know that there was a major issue. Hopefully they didn't notice, but this year I'm ready for a new year. I'm ready to put all of that behind me. That PTSD from all that stuff, and just leave it in the past. I'm ready for new programs, introducing Second Chance Breakfast. Right now we do it at middle and high. Teacher breakfast specials. The teachers do so much, offering them like making the waffle makers. They can come in the kitchens and get made-to-order waffles, the cappuccinos and stuff. New a la carte items, doing a bagel station and a waffle station for the students as well at the high school. Starting off this school year fully staffed. And I have to say, if you would have told me at the end of the last year that I would be fully staffed, I'd probably say, well, we'll see, but because people weren't applying. So I don't know what's changing, but I noticed that more people are applying. I try to get moms that are in Oak Grove, because if you're I'm a big person. If you're invested in our community, and especially if you have kids in the district, then I want you here. I can teach people how to cook all day long, but I can't teach the personality and the sense of community and involvement. Having a grocery supplier is amazing, and food outages are getting better every day. Our elementary school, I'm not going to read all of this, but Leah Connor is the kitchen manager, and her excitement and enthusiasm brings the excitement to the elementary school. She loves the kids. She gets hugs. Misty is the best principal. Like Leah, she loves the job, and a lot of it's because of Misty, because her support and involvement in our kitchen every day. If I go to her with an idea, she's like, sure, why not? Let's try it. And I'm like, okay, that was easy. So, but always open to new ideas and programs. Students love the fruit and vegetable bar. We were a little scared about putting that out there, but it went great. She let us change the serving lines for speed of service. Again, we were scared at first, but it went really good. And then I have the, and on here as well as our current breakfast choices. We serve peanut butter and jelly every day, especially our elementary, primary kids, because that's always an option that some kids are just afraid to go out of their comfort zone. But we have the 2 serving lines there. Like I said, the vegetable and fruit bar. And you can see where we kind of brought it out. The cashier used to be right inside by the serving line. So kids would grab their tray and they'd kind of turn in a circle to go to the cashier, and then they'd all like hit each other. So now they come out and it's a fruit and vegetable bar, and then that second bar we have like grab and goes and salads. They can just grab them, and then speed of service has just, kids have way more time to eat. These are just pictures, random pictures. I go in the kitchen, I take pictures of all the food. That's your strawberry salad. I believe that one is pork in the middle. And then, of course, chicken patty day. Had to take a picture of that at the elementary school because what would we be without chicken patty day? The middle school, this is Christy Jagels, is the manager there. She's also my backup director. She's been with us for 16 plus years now, too. Her hospitality and customer service is top notch. We started Second Chance Breakfast there. And we now, she has it so perfected and mastered. They run 3 carts out. They go by each pod. In a matter of like 4.5, 5 minutes, the carts come back empty. They stage them for the next day, and the breakfast went up like by 80, sometimes 80 to 100 breakfast. So that goes to show you.
And that's usually at the end of first hour, right?
Yeah.
So the carts are in
Yes.
the hallway meeting the kids when they come out from class. It's right there, and they can grab it and take it to second hour.
Because we all know our kids get up in the morning and
They're running late.
They're not awake. They're running late. They're like, I gotta get to school. And then by the time, if they don't get breakfast, they're just starving by lunchtime, starving. So we thought Second Chance Breakfast is the best thing. And then, and by God, it is. It's almost like you have to, I challenge you guys, please come and see it. At the high school, it's like it is. It's 4.5 minutes of chaos, but it's so organized, and it happens, and they go. Adam has been wonderful. And when we first started it, I can tell you, Adam was like, what about trash? What about this? What about that? And I was concerned too, but like the kids have it mastered now, and the breakfast numbers at the high school as well doubled as well. These are middle school pictures. This is the fruit and vegetable bar. We added those coolers as well. She also added, this is us shoveling groceries. I had to put some pictures in because they mastered the dolly. At first they were like, how does this work? And I'm like, oh, we'll figure it out.
And so the fruit and vegetable bar is, if I'm a student who's got a plated meal, I just put whatever that I want on my plate.
Yeah,
Add
yeah.
to it.
And so we tell them all, they have to have, to be a reimbursable meal, they have to have a 1/2 cup of fruit or 1/2 cup of vegetable or 1/4 of a 1/4 of each one to get past the cashier to be qualified as a reimbursable meal. Yeah, I mean, we have some kids, like this one kid had pineapple, like it was like a mound. And so the cashier, we try to tell the kids, we're like, take what you can eat. And then, you know what I mean, if you're starving and want more, we usually do like say that take 2 scoops, and then because some of them just try to be fun and just see how much they can add on the plate. So the donuts, we make those fresh in the morning, and then Christy started a donut day like once a month where she puts them on a la carte, and the kids just go nuts. She is so innovative. She does the Second Chance Breakfast, and then they dress up. I don't know if you guys have seen her. She makes the Chiefs, Andy Reid. She dresses up as him, and she looks darn good. And so,
That's awesome. The presentation is,
you know,
Beautiful.
there's restaurants don't have that.
I
That's awesome.
it's funny. I challenge people because they always say, you know, like it's school lunch, and my son, he's always begging me to bring him chicken patties to this day. You know, he's 27, and I'm like, son, I can't drive 3.5 hours for chicken patties. But school lunch has evolved so much, and that's one thing
Absolutely.
that I did love about OPA is I thought I have to tell people when I hire them, and I just interviewed this gal last week, and she's like, so what do you mean, like, there's recipes? Like, you have to make stuff? And I looked at her like, we don't open stuff up. Like, we make the bread in the morning by scratch. You know, I mean, you have to proof it, you have to bake it. I said, we cut all the fruit. Like, we don't get anything pre-cut. So you have to make it by scratch. You have to read a recipe. So
I would challenge you to find, I know for sure, the middle school and the high school both have a Facebook page.
I was gonna say that, and I please guys get on there.
I will.
I've
Because
had
they
parents.
post food, and they just take pictures of the food and the dress up outfits, and it's,
Yeah.
what is it? Is it OG?
It's
Cafeteria or?
It's oh my God! I'll just send it out to both of you guys because my mind's kind of. But the pictures on there. I had a parent call me and she goes, "Do you stage those for Facebook and Instagram?" And I go, "I don't have that time." No, I have them take a picture every day what they're serving the kids, and put it on there so the parents can know what their kids are getting. So
Make fresh donuts.
yeah, and the donuts are so good, and they make like the chocolate glaze and the cinnamon rolls. Yeah, they're so good. And for a while, I even convinced my brother, who was on leave, to become a lunch lady. And mind you, he's 6'8", was a very big man. He dressed up as Santa Claus, and the kids really thought he was Santa at the elementary school. Oh, don't put that in the note, yeah. But they were telling him what they want for Christmas, so all the kitchens love to have fun with a purpose, and that's one thing. You have to have a passion, to serve kids, and they really do. The primary, thank you for the beautiful new kitchen, and we got to serve more meals there and put out the fruit and vegetable bar, plus the condiment bar, offering them like lettuce and tomato before they, like the little extras. They never had that before because we never had a place to put that stuff. So it's much appreciated. Here's pictures. You can see the little bar there. That's the meals. They walk up and they grab them themselves. All the little decorations. Kim and that's Bonnie on the serving line. I don't know. Do you guys know Henry, the dog, Kelly's dog? Mm-hmm. He comes in the kitchen every day, and Kim buys dog treats to give him a dog treat. They love those kids. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. And then again, this is the primary, and then that's Italian bread they made, and then they just cut it. Once you bake it, and then you just diagonal cut it for the kiddos. And the variety, like I had teachers, they're like, "Why are we offering so many? The kids don't need this many options." I honestly eat like a 10-year-old. Like I like what I like, and I'm afraid I separate everything. My husband puts everything on his mashed potatoes. I'm that person, likes them in containers. Everyone's different, and that's what I wanted the kitchens to be like. Because how you may like a cheeseburger, you may not like. You like onions, tomato, lettuce. So you can go to that condiment bar and put on what you want, and then so that way they're more apt to eat and come to the kitchen. But the high school, they have the smoothies, made-to-order omelets, the second chance breakfast cart, the new kitchen remodel, the new equipment have been wonderful. Having a steamer was a game changer with the making vegetables, the large dry storage, the new dish machine, the new open-air merchandisers, because I like to go to Quick Trip and steal ideas from them, and things we can make, like fruit cups and putting hard, boiled eggs in a cup, for protein. So we're serving all those new a la carte items. And this is one thing that I love that we do is, so a la carte, if you have to have money in your account to get an a la carte item. So I was that kid that was on free lunches when I was younger, and it's hard to watch kids go up there and grab, a Bosco stick and a nacho and everything, and grab a cheeseburger and a spicy chicken sandwich and walk away, and you can't get anything. So is what we offer now is they can pretty much get any sandwich, and then they just have to go through the line to the fruit bar and get a fruit and vegetable and the side items, and then we make it a reimbursable meal.
So if a kid qualifies and gets free meals, if he does it that way, he gets a la carte, and then it still can be a free meal.
It's a win-win for the district.
Great idea.
So on a la carte, we only, you get that reimbursement on that reimbursable meal back, so it's a win-win for you guys and for the kid who actually gets to experience getting the a la carte.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
And then welcome back. Every year we do a welcome back gift for all the teachers, and all the kitchen managers deliver it to all the staff. There's Jan unloading. There's our lovely Ryder truck. Dave in the background shuffling product. This is the high school, and this was towards the end of the year that we got new chip racks. We got some baskets. The girls make. I invite you to come. Have any of you come on omelet day? I invited my husband randomly. He's like, "Can I do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can come up and get an omelet." And he tried to make an omelet. He goes, "Oh my God, this is better than any restaurant." I was like, "I know, they're so good." We have all the officers, Bob and all the guys. They come eat breakfast and lunch. They love omelet day. And then there's smoothie day. There's our a la carte shoot. It's always full. It's made to order. They actually bake everything as we go on during the day. so it's not made at 9 o'clock in the morning. The overall summary is that through everything, I mean, I hate even talk about the negative, but through everything, one of the things I wanted to say is Mindy has been amazing. Like, she don't even know I didn't put this in the PowerPoint because I was sending it to her, so, but her support, because I have to tell you, it was very depressing to go through a lot of the challenges we went through. And not being in the kitchen and seeing everybody and not seeing the district people, like communicating with you guys, like it was hard not to be a normal, you know what I mean, your normal job. But I even went to Mindy and I was like, man, I'm struggling. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm doing horrible. And she's like, and in her Motivation Mondays, like even an email, like I would wake up and I read her stuff and I'm like, oh my God, that is motivating. I can do this today. You know what I mean? And getting out there and the support you get from the administration in Oak Grove is huge. And saying if you're struggling and you need help, you know, Tom to say, I'll have a truck there in 10 minutes, you know what I mean? Or I'll send some over to help unload 100 cases of something is very nice. And again, being the district fully staffed, and we're working on continuous improvement. I'm a big cross-training people on staff, and I think it only makes our program stronger. Food cost, I'm sure you all, when you go buy your groceries, you're thinking, what did I buy for $150? I got 4 things. But food cost has increased, but the quality and presentation are my main focus in our program. But great support again, and improving communication. I want to improve my communication with you all and in the buildings and the administrators now that, you know, I mean, I have a distributor and we have staff. But I have a board report that I'll be sending out to you guys so you don't have to see my face. But I'll just kind of highlight what's going on that month and what's coming up, so maybe you guys can come in and visit stuff. So.
How long you been here now, Jennifer?
Oh God, 17 years.
I was gonna say probably
Yeah.
close to 20.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was funny. I was thinking about you because when I originally moved to Oak Grove, they were calling me like a non-Oak Grovian. You like you're not from here. You didn't graduate from here. And so both my kids went from kindergarten, you know what I mean, all the way up. And now I feel like I have like that. I'm now the old person that's not in the know of like, I'm like, who is that? Oh, that's so-and-so's kid. And I'm like, oh, Lord, you know what I mean? Yeah, so these kids are growing up so fast. Time goes by so fast, but yeah.
Well, you've done an amazing job with
And I
goodness.
thank you so much. And I tell you, the managers, if you happen to see them, just thanking them for everything they did last year.
Who's primary manager?
Christina Mills. And she is a new manager. She's only 2 years in. And she took over a kitchen that was kind of, what's the word, disheveled? Is that the right word? To say the least. And she had to kind of rebuild it and revamp it. And trying to get people to understand that kindergartners, first and second graders have a taste palette, and they're always like, well, they're little. Well, no, they know. These kids are knowing stuff way earlier these days. So, yeah, trying just to refocus, and I just call it refresh this year. Starting the program, and communication is key, and with these two, I think it's going to be amazing. I really do. And I know we rebid in 21, and I don't think we're up for rebid until 25, 26. But so we kind of rebid at a perfect time, but with all the craziness. But it's like that's why I wanted to see you guys. I don't want to wait till I rebid. I want to brag on the girls and show you what we're doing and all the new programs that we're going to be starting. Do you have any questions for us and Morgan?
I think just commentary, you know, as a working family, too, you know, both of us working, I'm so appreciative that the meals are so good that my kids don't want me to pack a lunch.
Oh,
They
I
want
love
my
you.
lunch. And I even appreciate it when they want to have breakfast. So I think that's no small feat. And so
Thank
ever
you
since
very
they
much.
started in the primary and now middle and high school.
And that's what I want to do, is start them off young, you know, I mean, getting used to school lunch and breakfast. And but also I want to thank you. Like I was so sad. I was praying to God I didn't have to present right after that, because thank you for everything you've done. Because this whole board is so supportive. Like I know, and the district is just, my kitchens are amazing. I was so excited. It was like Christmas, getting new kitchens. Yeah. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
No,
I
thank
have a
you.
question just real
Thank
quick
you.
before
I
we-
saw you out there in the heat unloading trucks.
I was the freezing cold and he drove by and I'm like, you want to help?
She was constantly unloading trucks. She was a truck driver that entire year.
I literally was a truck driver.
I
This
mean,
isn't
yeah.
a direct question for you, but kind of Mrs. Hampton as well. So one of the knocks that we kind of do get, unfortunately, just from a facility standpoint, is our cafeteria at the elementary is outside. What would that process actually look like to be able to enclose that? I know it's been like a delivery issue, like what were that communication, because
Tom and I
obviously.
were walking that, looking at it the other day, and I mean, I'm not an architect or engineer, but it looks really easy to me. So I would love to knock down the wall at the library and make that a big entrance, like a lot of your libraries have like a big common entrance area, and make that, and then all that could connect into the kitchen. The issue then, you would have to knock down that overhang that was built, you'd have to knock that down so trucks could get in. Trucks still go in and they have to go around, but then like the big transformers are back here, so you've got to be able to get work trucks back to the very back corner. But it's definitely earmarked as a priority in this next bond that we need to do. We've done some updates. Cafeteria, have you been in there and seen the new lighting?
Oh my gosh, like
New lighting. and
just
new
the floor, you
flooring.
guys, getting a new floor was like Christmas, because the tile was so bad, and it was just so old that, you know what I mean, how you mop and they wax for so many years. Like, when Mindy was like, you're getting a new floor, I'm like, what? Because I repainted everything, even the equipment, you know what I mean? I painted the equipment to make it look like newer. I mean, you can only do so much because the kitchen is so old. But, yeah, but I think with that canopy, I thought about the drivers, like going to the, you know how that ramp is so long, like opening up that metal railing to where the driver can stop short of the kids coming in, because I hate the driver coming up that far.
Well, the other option too, I mean, the other option is that they could come to the, I forgot my location here, they could come to the Horseshoe Drive,
Yeah,
but then they'd come in this door, and then now they'd have to go through the double glass door we put up, and then the back door, and then they'd have to go, so there'd be 4 doors that they'd have to go through.
yeah. The hard part is, and that's giving them key access. That's the hardest part is.
Well, if the concern with them coming where they come now is we put up the new fencing and we want to close, then keep that gate closed, because then you have cars and truck drivers driving when you have kids at recess. So, you know, we'd really love to be able to, we even joked, if you're here before 8, you can use the direct access. If you're here after 8, you have to go through 4 doors to get, maybe the driver would prioritize us and come before 8.
I'm doing that to my staff as well, because that was the hard part about delivering all the groceries myself, is the teachers, they were like, Misty and the teachers were so kind to me. So I roll down my window, I go to the gate, and I'm like, it's just me, and I'd wave, and then they'd say, stop the balls, and then I would go, because I can't carry that stuff, you know what I mean, so I'd have to get closer. But I said, if you're here after 8, then absolutely no. So we're trying to limit people at all going by there, going back there.
Well, and there's a couple different ways they can get in, but it's how far do they want to carry it, and how many doors do they want to enter through.
But I was looking, I mean, this sounds crazy, at canopies and stuff, like I was doing a wedding, and, you know, they have those canopies that are like, I'm talking temporary, you know what I mean, where you can put them up and it's like a, you know, I thought about whether we could put some of that up there, you know what I mean, like temporary, you know what I mean, like doing a fundraiser or whatever,
And
because,
it's not so much the elements, I think, it's just as far as security or just that access.
because the kids, you should see them when it's raining or snowing from the bus. And by the time they get in there, they're like, no, they're like a dog shaking off, and they throw their backpack off for breakfast, and then they gotta get back in and do it again to get in, yeah. So, eventually, that's on my Christmas list, yes. Yeah.
That's for sure. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to meet you guys, thank you for being here.
Oh, really quick, you guys, there's Ziploc bags in there, please take it after your meeting, take whatever you want, and then I can just come back, yeah.
Okay, do we have breakfast and lunch for the next week?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, it was good food.
Thank you.
And thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. Selkie.
The donuts are really good, by the way.
And what day is that?
That omelet day, I need to check that out. We have to get up.
I didn't want to admit it, but I have not eaten one meal.
Uh,
So after those salads you guys had, like if we ordered one at central office, they would deliver that to us. We just have to put in the order.
What is this meat thing?
Yeah, that has been a special treat for
What is
us.
this meat thing?
Oh.
Oh my God.
They've come over and done like.
Come a long way.
Oh, they have?
Temporary little stovetops, you know, and they've made us omelets, like we've done something for like Boss's Day, or you know, we've done it a couple times, and they bring all this stuff, and they're like, what are you wanting it, and they make it for us right there, and they are good.
Wow, that's impressive.
And homemade rolls are good, they brought those over once or
So I got a couple things to go over tonight. I'll start with the year in review from this past year. This is the second year that I've put this presentation together for you guys. It does have a lot of information in it, so I won't cover it in great detail, but if you have questions as we go through, just let me know. Starting on page 3, offerings. Again, I appreciate the board voting in girls golf for this coming fall. So that's another offering that we will have, which will put the spring golf season down to just the boys. And then we list all of the other activities and clubs we have there in the offerings. On the next page, page 4, I just get on Misha and go through the sports rosters numbers divided up by sport, male and female with totals. Same for the high school and the activities rosters and the middle school activities rosters. The big one where I start doing some comparisons is on page 6 with the multi-sport athletes trend. This past year, we were really up with dual sports for males, down with tri-sports, and then for the females, they were pretty much the same, down a little bit on dual this past year. And then we do the totals with the boys and girls together. So this past year, we had 126 athletes do one sport, 91 athletes do 2 sports, and 22 athletes do 3 sports throughout the school year for a total of 239 students or student athletes. Out of those athletes, I think it's very important to talk about the activities they're in. We have 107 students that participate in 1, 2, or 3 sports, also participate in at least one activity. So we have a very big base of students that are athletes and in the activities as well. So that kind of shows the support from sports to activities here at OGHS. On the next page is the activities accolades. I did not attach, I just linked in the sports accolades, which can be found on the website under the activities page, but I also listed the activities accolades for all the individuals this past year. I don't know if it was mentioned last time, but the Board of Aldermen and Mayor Webb had the 2nd annual proclamation of all of these students. If they received state degrees, anything at the state level or above, they were recognized there by the team and individuals. So definitely thank them for doing that for another year. Coaching staff retainment, we had 10 of 13 come back this year as head coaches, 29 of 46 for assistants and activities, 11 of 12 come back. For next year, we have approved the head girls wrestling coach, head girls golf, esports, and middle school sport esports as well. So we're adding those 4 stipends positions for next year. And I've done the trend for the past 3 years of kind of how well we're retaining coaches, head, high school, head, assistant, and activities.
Do you know do you have any idea how that compares to the rest of the conference? I mean, as far as that percentage, is everybody else in that 60-ish percentage for assistants, or is that low, high?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. I know, just talking to other schools, everybody's looking for coaches.
Oh yeah, it's
Kind of
constant
figured,
battle.
but I didn't know where.
One of the, Darren and I received from another school, something that would be really interesting to look at, but from a cost factor. It's Lawson Schools. Dr. Schmitz had asked you to share with me, but their extra duty scale is unique. I've never seen one like it, their pay scale. And so it takes all of their activities and puts them in a tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and there may be 6 tiers. And so it's based on amount of responsibility and amount of time put in, what tier you're in, similar to we do the percent. So our extra duty says if you're a head coach, it's 17 or 18% of the base. If you're an assistant coach, it's this percent. But not only do they do it based on those tiers, but then they have years of service. So if you're a coach 0 to 3 years, you're going to get paid this stipend. If you're a coach 4 to 6 years, it'd be this. Similar to your pay scale, you advance down by your years of experience. But then the third factor that they have that I've never seen before is then they have a multitude factor. So if you do 2 sports, you get an additional this percent raise. If you do 3 sports, you get an additional this. So it encourages to stick with it years, and it encourages to coach multiple sports. But costly. I mean, I'd be interested to plug that into what we currently have, which I'm sure Shelley could probably do pretty easily. But just to compare what we spend currently versus what something like that would be.
And to get where we are now, it was huge cost increase. That was, I did that in '95,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the last time it's been addressed.
And ironically, I think in the conference, Higginsville has one of the most aggressive coaching stipends. Do you agree? Have you looked at any of those?
I haven't looked down for a
They're just
minute.
pretty aggressive compared to other schools. But so it is definitely something to keep a watch on and to look at, because it is concerning. There's so much controversy that can come with coaching, which I think is what deters some.
More than ever.
But then when you're short on coaches, you're getting less qualified, or you're begging more to have somebody come and do it, and that creates additional controversy sometimes. So.
And when we do add to the base, that adds a little bit, but not a lot when it comes to the coaching stipend. So I would definitely love to look at that down the road at some point. And
Well, like anything else, you know, if I'm a first-year head coach, why should I be getting paid the same as a 15-year head coach? And I probably shouldn't be.
so those are the numbers for the coaching retainment. They've kind of stayed pretty much the same the past 3 years. If you flip over to page 11, it's the facilities overview. Again, I can't thank Mr. Huffington, Mrs. Hampton, and the board for the new track. It looks awesome. Can't wait to start hosting track meets. Actually, this is my first time having an actual track in good shape in my many years in education. So we do plan on hosting a couple meets this coming spring, starting slow and then building up. The one thing that we're really missing out there now is a high jump pit. So we're going to be working with the boosters, who I don't know if they know that yet or not, but and my sponsorships to work on getting that last piece there. And then the throwing ring needs some work too. So we're getting there, but the track was definitely a great upgrade, and looking forward to having that for many years. We will get back in the conference rotation to start hosting conference meets again. And then eventually, probably sooner than later, we'll look at hosting a district or a sectional meet. So the Javelin Runway was a great addition as well. I'm very thankful that we went ahead and did that as well. So I kind of went through there, the concessions, adding the concessions, extending that. I don't know how, after looking at how good it looks now with that extension, with the fence pushed back and the concrete, I don't know how we went so long with it being so small. That's really going to help with the foot traffic during the games there.
The fence looks really good.
It does. The black
That
fence looks
black
awesome.
fence is really cleaned up
Tom
nicely.
Huffington, good job.
Yep. The lights at Panther Stadium is really the next big project that we need to do out there. I think anybody that's been to a night game realizes that we are well outdated with lighting at the stadium. So eventually I'd like to start
If
working
we're gonna throw the
towards
football
that.
more, we're gonna be able to see.
That's right. And even to the announcer, even with new glasses, I'm not sure I
So
can
you
read
can
the
see read
numbers.
numbers, yeah.
So that's definitely the next big project for the Panther Stadium. The old concessions, they're in fair condition. If we're going to keep that as restrooms, I really feel like they need a complete overhaul on the inside. They're dark, they're dingy, they're old. It wouldn't take much to get flooring like out there in there, new lights, new paint job, new facility in there. So a lot of good things going on out there, but some things are starting to need attention. And again, I appreciate Mr. Huffington's all of his work for really getting the track going on that. The wrestling building, the wall mats are in really poor condition out there. Coach Scully and Coach Phillips had, and still have, I think this week, have a lot of wrestlers out there. They started deep cleaning, pulling out all the mats, and it was very, very dirty out there. So I definitely thank them for working on that. I actually just did a PO today for a new competition wrestling mat. That's thanks to the Booster Club and my Panther Stadium sponsors for that. So hopefully that'll be here by the Odessa Duel this winter.
Did we get a good orange?
I hope.
It always looks good on the computer.
I know.
The high school gym, repairs are being made to the bleachers right now, I believe, started today, I think is what Mr. Huffington said. Besides that, mostly everything's in pretty good condition. Again, the gym foyer is very small when it comes to hosting district basketball, which I love putting on hosting districts as much as possible, but you have to take that in consideration whenever you're scheduling games, especially championship night, because there's just no place for anybody to go. So eventually we'd love to see a new gym foyer, bigger, where we can fit the whole gym out in there when needed. The locker rooms, again, kind of like the old concessions or the old restrooms at the stadium. Locker rooms are starting to get pretty outdated. Again, a makeover wouldn't hurt. I know the public doesn't see the restrooms or the locker rooms, but visiting teams do and coaches. So, we want to take pride in how all of our facilities look for those teams. So, flooring, tiles, paint job, and we're right back up there. Middle school gym, again, still in great condition there. And then at the bottom of page 13, I did, my long-term planning of what I think needs to happen. Divided into 3 different categories: the upgrades, the additions, and the remodels. And I pretty much touched base on most of those main things I'd like to see moving forward. On page 14, we go into the Panther Stadium sponsorship. We've generated over $39,000, not counting next school year, and I've listed most, if not all, of the upgrades that have been $0 to the public, all through sponsorship money. So I really can't thank my Panther Stadium sponsors enough for that yearly sponsorship that they do. The money has definitely renovated a lot of things for our school district. I have a lot of upgrades to keep in mind in the future as we go through. I look at that every year, multiple times, see how much money, see what, I talk with my coaches. A wrestling mat was definitely something that was needed for this coming year, and we'll still have some money left over to either carry over to the following year to another big purchase or spend that on something. So it's nice to have that extra money to get these things that the coaches and teams really need. I also went through and listed, had the Booster Club presidents, the athletic, band, choir, and theater send me things that they do. I think our school district is very blessed with our booster clubs. They do a lot for the students in all capacities. And again, you can see just through some of their contributions, the stuff that they purchase for our teams. And it's, I don't rarely get a no answer when I go to any of them. It's, if anything, they'll chip in some, if anything. So definitely appreciate all the hard work that the band booster parents do. Wall of Fame committee, I listed the Wall of Fame committee there in the induction class. Again, they will be inducted at homecoming this coming October in the middle school commons as usual. I think the committee did very good on the 2023 induction class. MRVC on page 16, just a quick review of that. The West is still with only 7 schools. Marshall did officially present to the conference to try to get in, and they were voted, they declined to vote them in. So we're still stuck at 7, and it really comes down to football because you have to schedule a non-conference game. Somebody does all the way through basically the entire schedule, and it's pretty tough. Right now we have Lincoln Prep late in the season, but I know Harrisonville is struggling very hard to get theirs filled. So we're kind of looking at schedules within the conference. It was just brought up in the spring about moving around those open weeks where we have to have non-conference every couple of years just to help out with all the schools. So we're going to look at that until we get an 8th team in there. Enrollments, I don't know if I had this in there last year or not, but I went ahead and did enrollments and did the plus minus from 2020 to 2023. Harrisonville's down 36 and Oak Grove's down 39. Everybody else is up in enrollments in the past 3 years.
That's your mission enrollment, which is
Yeah.
9/11, or is it?
9, 10, 11. Yep, 9, 10, 11 enrolled.
So we're the smallest school in the district, in the conference.
Yep.
At the longest said we would be.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go ahead and pay that guy.
But, which is funny, because when you compare those based on total district enrollment, we're not.
Right.
So it's our high schools are small, isn't
Our
it?
high school right now, enrollment small at high school.
Well, there are some small classes in there. I mean, as far as
Yeah.
the numbers, I mean, there's 112 or 14 or something in this one, opposed to 160 a couple years ago.
Yeah. My oldest graduated, it was like 190.
Yeah.
Cause where are we close in total enrollment versus like Odessa and Clinton? Is that what
We're right
measuring?
at we're at like 1,890, and Odessa's right at 2,000. I think Pleasant Hill's 21.
Yeah. I think Clinton's probably smaller.
Yeah, I think overall Pleasant's smaller.
Then the last 2 pages are just the Misha annual ballots, the results from there. We voted against a couple things, but I believe everything passed. You know, if you got any questions, just let me know. I know one big one is they changed the physical form again. They've added boys volleyball and girls stunt, 2 emerging sports. CPR for everybody now, so it's not just athletic coaches, it's Scholar Bowl, band, choir, speech and debate, everybody. If you're on Misha as a director or coach, you have to have CPR and first aid through that. Individual volleyball player limits, you know, it's a good range of stuff there, so. Any questions on the year review?
Basketball.
Oh, basketball,
Ah.
that's bizarre.
Don't get me started on that.
That's why we shared it on the social media page.
No more one
No
and
more
one.
1-on-1,
free
older
throws.
fouls, 5 1/4.
Yeah. I mean, it just, the whole in-game strategy will completely change.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they said they wanted, which I didn't exactly grasp, but.
I'm not a big fan of it, and definitely, I am personally not a fan of the shot clock. We voted it no, and they keep saying, well, it's gonna come back. I told them, well, we voted no, so why are we bringing it back?
They keep pushing anything that's
They
in
keep pushing and
college.
pushing, and I've told them before, I'm telling them again, do a study of every possession in the high school, you have huddle now, and tell me how many possessions actually go over 35 seconds. It's very few, I guarantee it. So why are we adding a shot clock for those few possessions? So,
It's an added cost to districts.
Oh, added cost.
Smaller schools, that'd be hard, like for Wellington to,
Well, already, I mean, by the time you get a bookkeeper and a clock keeper and a
Absolutely.
gatekeeper, and now you're gonna have to add a shot clock
Yep.
keeper, that's a mouthful.
yep, definitely not a fan of that. Is there anything that anybody would like to see in this review for next year?
one thing I know we've talked about in the past, I don't know if this is something that you guys have talked about as an administration. I know that this is kind of one thing, we don't have a uniform cycle for our varsity sports or middle school. Is that something that's been discussed at all to try to establish? Like, what does that look like? Just,
No, that would be good. I mean, do you have any, like, just in the back of your mind, like, knowing who's gonna need new uniforms, or you just wait for coaches to request?
When coaches request, I mean, that's the way it's been done. I don't know how long before me, because I was kind of surprised we didn't have one too, because I came on from one. But
Yeah.
it's in the past 6 years, it's worked fine. When they request, you know, I say, well, what's your funds like? Let's look at the varsity essay, and then we also talk to the booster club as well. And I think anytime anybody's needed,
We
uniforms,
paid for
we
most
got.
uniforms all the way throughout. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just not money in essay accounts for it, too. I mean, it would be hard to put a program to it because it's not like you got extra money sitting there where you're like, oh, well, we could have bought uniforms.
Right.
No, I mean, there's really not a uniform fund.
No.
I mean, to be
No,
honest,
there's not.
Booster Club is the uniform fund.
Yeah.
You know, and we try to have a rotation like, hey, you were here last month, but in reality, now don't tell anybody, but we don't really tell anybody nothing. We'll come back.
Yeah.
Middle school girls basketball go look pretty good.
They do look good.
Yeah, because they're
Just saw them
smart
last
enough to
week.
keep asking.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle, because when I was, again, I haven't been AD since '97, but I had because sometimes coaches don't ask. And, I mean, Coach Adams is a prime example.
Oh, yeah.
The-
Track
the-
got way
The track
behind.
uniforms were just falling off the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I just said, Coach, we're gonna get new uniforms, you know, and that's gotta be, it would help. And again, it was a budget item then.
Well, I would say, I mean, if we created it as a budget item, then for sure we would just do a rotation.
Yeah.
But, for
And it
sure.
was just based on the age of the uniform, because, you know, there were sometimes, I mean, there would be coaches that want new stuff every year.
What happened the year that Misha changed the what was that? The 1 year Misha changed?
Oh, it's been, they've done all kinds of goofy
Yeah.
stuff. We had tucked in football jerseys, and then we went to the just where it just hung, which was the best thing ever. No, and then that was about 2 years, and then they said, no, we gotta tuck them in again, and,
And it may not affect it, I think, it was something to do, you couldn't have anything on there unless it was your team name. So,
Yeah, and logos and certain things
Yeah.
can't be on there,
It'd be
yeah.
logo, team
We
name,
weren't
school name,
breaking that
that's
rule, I don't
it.
think, to begin with.
Something changed.
but it would be something, again, it would require a budget, and it's not a complicated thing, as you.
No, it's not. I mean, I think the process has been pretty seamless, honestly, and I'm
Yeah, and it was
trying to
really-
think through. I think every
Nobody's really
Every team
taking
has-
advantage of it,
no.
or track was the worst because they didn't have, kept trying to get a different track coach, and so,
Yeah.
so the last coach didn't wanna go make a commitment to buy anything
Right.
and stuff, so.
which we did just get tracked,
Yeah.
what, 4
Yeah.
years ago?
Yeah, and track was hard because, I mean, it's
a lot.
120
Yeah.
pieces of equipment,
Right.
All right, nope, that's good, that's a good report.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate all this.
Next, I'll go with the coach's handbook. This is something I've been working on since about Christmas. Every year at the fall back to school meetings, I have, an all coaches meeting, all directors, everybody. And there's a lot of stuff to cover. So I started reaching out to local schools and even all the way down to Versailles and got their coaches handbooks and I had a good idea in mind, and took some of their examples and really just started putting most of the stuff that we cover throughout the year. And I hope this is going to be a good resource for all of my head coaches for sure, so that if they have questions, they can always refer back to this, if it's the purchasing process or, out of season sports practices, whatever it may be. This will definitely be an ongoing document. It does not cover everything, but this covers probably 75% at least of the stuff that I cover. At the beginning of each sports season, I also have a head coaches meeting. And, the fall gets everybody, but then in winter and in spring, I have another meeting for those coaches that are in season, which this will be a good tool that I will be using to basically just review with them, our practices, our procedures. One big thing I'll be pushing this year is communication with the parents, with the kids. We've had some issues in the past, so I really want our coaches to be reaching out ahead of time before issues happen. So communication will be big this coming year. There's a lot of links. I know the documents are only a couple pages, but there's a lot of links that take you to different things. Just like the fundraising, we've started a fundraiser form that will be implemented this coming year that they have to fill out for whenever they do a fundraiser. So I really won't go through this one much. Like I said, there's just a lot of stuff for my coaches in there, and I'll be adding stuff in the coming years for sure. Any questions on this one?
I just saw some things on out of season practices and things, Coach. I think we're at a point, like it or not, the comp, or I call them compensation leagues, but they've become a way of things, and they're not going away, and there are kids in other school districts that are no longer playing high school sports, but only playing comp sports, because they believe that's the recipe for a scholarship to get them somewhere. And I think the more we resist that, the more struggles. Well, we're punishing our kids because their parents want them to be involved in something. I think we have to look at cooperation and communication to allow kids to do those things. And I was an old school AD myself, and I didn't like it either, but now it's what we do. Kids are involved in comp things and all the time. I know Lee Summit West lost some really good volleyball players to comp. It is what it is, and I guess I would urge our administration and our coaches to be open to discussion about practices and allowing, and maybe in some ways it might be a plus for us because they get some quality coaching and quality work. Just saying.
Yeah, I think specifically what's in the handbook is just referring to our school, is it?
So the out-of-season practices is something that Misha just opened up last year to where during football season, basketball can have a certain amount of practices during a certain
Right.
time frame.
So that's specifically just for our coaches, for our kids.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily, but it does come up as an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit last year about philosophy of that and how we're gonna move forward, and it's
I think the coaches worked pretty well last year.
trying to figure it out.
Get it figured out.
I mean, is there a problem with somebody like playing comp volleyball but they play basketball for the high school?
The problem is when they wanna leave, like if you're having a basketball practice for the
Okay.
school and a kid wants to leave
It's a
practice.
scheduling conflict, but there's not a
No.
issue with.
Same sport, same season cannot happen. So during baseball season, you can't go play on a baseball comp.
team.
But during baseball season, you can play any other sport.
Okay.
Same sport, same season, you can't do it.
So, and I think the big issue is, what's really difficult is for us to balance. So, and what's hard is sometimes parents will wanna say, why can't you just move practice? Or why can't you just have practice later or earlier? And once you look at our gym schedule and then you figure out, so it's finding that balance that we're not gonna ask every kid on the team to move practice to this time to accommodate this one kid who needs to go do something different. Because we also have kids who are Girl Scouts, or kids who have church camp, or kids who have. So we've always just said, we'd like you to prioritize our school practices. And then the issue we ran into last year was, if a kid was gonna say, hey, I'm gonna miss these 6 practices, what does that look like?
Do you hit
And so
your
the
minimum?
concern was, somebody would say, well, they can't be punished. Well, are you looking at it as a punishment, or are we looking at it as this kid didn't do the same things that the rest of the team did when that kid left to practice? So that's where we had to figure out, what's that balance look like, and what's equitable for every kid once they step on the court. So is there conditioning to make up? Is there things that they need to do? Is this gonna be tolerated only a certain number of times? So we really had to try to navigate that too, because it isn't fair to Cindy Sue, who doesn't ever get to get on the basketball court, but she's at practice every single day and never misses a minute, versus somebody who may leave practice early every day to go do something else. So just trying to create those parameters that are equal and fair, and it just requires coaches really to communicate. We needed an expectation, and then coaches to communicate that with parents.
Yeah, I think half of the football team was gone this morning to play baseball. Legion made state, so there were
Yeah.
8 or 10 kids that
Yeah.
started kids.
Well,
over
and as the world changes and continues to,
It
we're
has.
going to, if we want kids to be multi-sport athletes, or if we want kids to play even at all for school sports.
Well, one of the things that has nothing to do with comp, but middle school parents, I think one of their concerns is when we have a 5 and then a 7 o'clock practice, where that makes kids back and forth and parents back and forth, where if you had a morning practice, nobody likes getting up in the morning, nobody. But if it's a one trip and then they ride the bus home, where now they're going to school, well, you can figure it out. I mean, it's just, it causes them to, if you were late practice, they're coming home and then coming back, and then you're going back to pick them up. And it creates a transportation issue for some parents. And granted, nobody likes morning practices, but we have a gym in the morning, and sometimes after school, you don't have a gym, so I'm just saying.
It's definitely an ongoing conversation. I mean, I think morning practices help the situation. I don't think it's the answer. I don't think we get better in the mornings compared to when we do after school. I mean, as an athlete and as a former coach, it's
And
morning
an
practices
auxiliary
are
gym
rough.
is on a priority list for next bond,
Yeah.
but even with an auxiliary gym, we're still gonna have scheduling and gym
Well, the
conflicts.
girls' basketball team that went 31-0 practiced almost every morning their entire season. Just saying.
What year was that?
91,
92, yep.
Uh-huh.
30 years ago.
It was.
Kids are just built different.
I like this. I'm glad we have a source to go back to when we have coaches that we need to remind, what our expectations are. I do like that, especially the essential duties at the end. I like that.
The last one's the activities handbook. Drug testing is not in our activities handbook. It's actually in the student handbook, and it's covered in detail there. But we did add tampering and falsifying test results. We've added the 365-day suspension for that, just like if you refuse to. We think it's very not the right thing to do. So, whenever I bring the kids in, I explain to them in detail, if a mistake has happened, these are going to be the consequences, and I walk them through everything, and I wanted to be very clear with them. So we feel it's very important that we get truthful results, so we are adding that into the policy. Obviously, just like any other test, they would be able to do some type of counseling or something to get that down, but that would be the initial consequence for that. Other than that, I just updated a couple things. The attendance policy last year, whenever we added the tardiness, allowing students to be tardy, I was pretty wordy on that policy, so I've basically just simplified it. I've looked at a couple others and just simplified the wording. I know there's lots of questions about the day of, day after. We are still presenting the day of and day after. We feel it's worked, so that's where the administration is with that. But besides that, we haven't had any other major changes in the activities handbook.
Well, Coach, I feel like it's a solution looking for a problem. We don't have a problem with day of, day after, but yet we have a policy that's in place. It'd be different if we had a number of kids, I think you said 7 or 8 a year maybe. I just don't understand punishing a kid because of some unforeseen circumstance that sometimes they can't help. Again, I think it's a solution looking for a problem. Just saying. Because I know because Coach Mack and I instituted it, and I remember why. Because we had lots of problems. Our kids have different expectations now. They know we expect them to be there, and I just think to me, it's not necessary. If you don't have a problem, you shouldn't have a policy for a problem you don't have. Just saying.
I've struggled with the day after, and I've come all over the map. I started, again, I support you, always support you guys and what you want to do. I'm not sure what the day after piece of it gains anymore. So having had a young one in sports for the first time, I know there were kids that came to school sick the day after a game because they knew if they did, they couldn't play the next time. So now we got kids coming to school sick. These weren't kids that were going to skip to take a rest day. That doesn't. So I start questioning in my mind, what's the goal of it? So that's I would love some help in understanding what the day after piece of it. I felt like I used to have a grip on that. I don't know if I do anymore after kind of living through it. So I struggle with that a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of changed heart a little bit.
Well, like Blue Springs, for the first time this year, is even going to have an attendance policy period. They have already had an attendance policy.
Yeah, they're COVID.
I've been told by parents, I've been told by plenty of parents that like the fact that we hold our students to a higher standard, and I would agree with that.
But I think we can hold them at high standards without penalizing some kid, or again, as you said, you bring some kid. I know, I remember, I saw kids come to school sick, and then we'd send them home after first hour when they shouldn't have came to school in the first place. But that's just what we did because because I think unfortunately, because when you have a hard, fast rule, it's hard to be flexible with it without showing, without feeling as an administrator like you're being inconsistent. But yet you should be allowed to avoid those circumstances. And as long as you have this policy, you're not going to be allowed to make exceptions. And those exceptions are they're gonna cost kids and make angry parents, and it's a frustration.
Is this, I just wanna make clarification, like what he's saying, so kid goes and plays a Tuesday night middle school football game. They're on the bus ride home, they get sick. If they don't come to school Wednesday morning, then they're ineligible for the next game.
Yes, unless it's a doctor's appointment, doctor's excuse.
But like if the kid has a 24-hour flu bug and they're just throwing up and you don't even go to the doctor, then that kid's ineligible. So like like you're saying, you're forcing the kid to basically, because once they check in out first hour, can they then leave though?
If the school nurse sends them home.
That's just kind of silly that like, why, I mean, that's the hard part about the day after to me is like, why are we doing that? Because like the hard part too, we're doing this to our student athletes. What would happen if I was a coach at Oak Grove and like I'm driving to school the next day and I get a flat tire and I'm late to work? What would you do to a coach?
Well, I think that's apples and oranges, honestly. I mean,
Why?
Because they're professionals, they're adults.
But so why would you hold your coach to a different standard than your students though? Because like these are children.
I would
who-
expect a coach to call the building principal and say, hey, I have a flat tire, and just not show up first hour.
But so
And
by
that's
what you're
approved.
saying though,
But wait,
like I'm gonna
that's
have a
what
kid
we
this
asked
year
the
playing,
citizens.
okay? So I have a kid, Jocelyn plays cross country in the fall. She gets sick on a cross country meet. If I call you the next morning and say, hey, she's sick, she's not coming to school, does that give you, does that bypass this policy?
If there's a doctor's excuse, doctor's note.
So you're gonna make me send my kid to go to a doctor because she's just throwing up? I mean, because parents don't take their kids to the doctor for throwing up, let's be honest. But that's what we're forcing parents to jump through these hoops. But like you're saying, we're already seeing it, they know the policy's in place, so we don't fight it because it's not worth the fight because it's happened in the past. And so we know the policy's lived long enough. So you have kids that come to school sick for middle school basketball. Why are we doing this? Like, I just have a hard time with it, I guess. I mean,
And I have a hard time with it too, but the other side of this is, you have the kid who says, well, you know, I played football, I'm sore, I'm not gonna get up and go to first down. I don't have to. Now, we don't have a problem with that because we have a rule. Now, if we get rid of the rule, will we have a problem with that? And maybe the question is, I don't know, let's try it for a year and see what happens or something. But I think a lot of kids or a lot of parents get their kid to school because they know, hey, I know you're tired, it's 10:30 at night when we got home from playing Clinton, but you gotta come to school tomorrow. Well, why can't I just take first hour off? Well, there's policy that keeps you from doing it.
But I think.
But maybe we can suspend it for a year and see what it does. But I hate to see the other side of that get abused.
Well, and
Which is the
Jeff,
reason it was over with.
Right.
Yeah, it was the reason it was put into place.
But it was put in place in '86, you know, so things have changed. You know, kids are, and our coaches now are doing a much better job. Everybody talks, the most important thing is you're a student, then you're an athlete. And teachers, of course, they want their kids there. I just think, and I think there's times when things happen, like, you know, I think of like the NFL draft. That was a unique experience that, you know, there were probably kids that were in spring sports that would have gone down there. I mean, I would run away from it myself, but that's a lifelong experience, you know, that probably didn't get to do that because if they ran a meet or were playing golf or playing baseball or soccer, they didn't get to do that because of the day after thing. I remember the problems we had. There were kids sleeping into fifth hour and all that stuff, because back then that's when that was a day. You come before fifth hour. But we're, you know, I think kids are responsible, parents are responsible, coaches are responsible. I don't think you're gonna see a onslaught of kids not showing up the next day.
I don't think you will year one, maybe not year two.
Question is, yeah, we see it year 3, year 4, and 5.
I think what I struggle with two things. I struggle with the fact that we don't have any information to decide if it is or isn't an issue. It's in place and it's working, is the one thing.
Well, that's debated, what working.
The question is,
Well-
because like you're basing it off of what it works for here, no other school has this policy.
That
Like,
doesn't matter.
I understand that, but like, so other schools would start implementing this policy if they were having these issues.
Attendance issues are a major issue at majority of schools, and you will watch lots of schools trying and having constant conversations everywhere we go, how to increase attendance, how to help kids get back to school. Wish we had data that would say, here's Johnny, and when he was in football season, his attendance was this, and here's Johnny when he doesn't play a sport, maybe to look at and compare that, but, I know lots of schools who have lots of attendance issues. We don't have terrible attendance issues, but we have really strict policies. And when you compare our daily rated attendance compared to other schools, it's pretty darn good. And I would say it's because we have strict policies.
But I think that's because of our attendance policies, not because of a day after policy. It's because we have strict attendance policies, maybe too strict. But that, it's not because of day after policy. That's not getting kids to school. I mean, that's, you guys know how I feel. I was part of its implementation. I hate that, I feel like the writers of the Constitution now that have seen the drastic disruption of what they wrote, and what they're calling as a Constitution. I feel like we're misusing the intent with what Mac and I came up with.
Well, I did like your question, because, I do think that there's two different policies, the day of, and then there's the day after. And, I think I know the answer, but do you want to address when he asked about the purpose of the day after? Did you answer that? I think maybe you did. Just to
So
give
they're
you-
not sleeping in after the long road trip to Clinton. I mean, yeah.
I'm thinking of my middle school friend and high school.
If there's something about medical issues, if we want to do, a parent calls in before the 20 minutes, then.
Because as soon as the kid goes the first hour, then they can just check out.
No, then it's the day of policy. Well, it depends if there's a game or not.
We're not supposed to, the policy reads that you're supposed to be in attendance the day after all day as well. But
It said
because
it
of
right here.
situations that arise, there are certain students, we've had students that have checked out before.
I've been excused.
Just like a kid's father has cancer, wanted to go to the treatment, don't bother coming in.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah.
There is that received administrative approval piece, right?
But with a hard policy, it makes it difficult for administrators to make exceptions. And the exceptions are a rarity. And sometimes exceptions ought to be the norm, not the rule.
And part of that is it needs prior approval. If my kid is playing baseball and takes a ball to the head and he's going the next day to get a concussion, how do I get prior approval? Cole the night before?
Oh, yeah.
So that saying, hey, Cole told me I gotta go, he's going to get checked out. So that's okay. We're not, yeah.
But there are things that you can't get prior approval. Things happen at home.
But aren't those the things that you'd be in violation of the attendance policy anyway?
Yeah, that's why we added the 20-minute,
To match the attendance, what makes you tardy or absent the day
Yeah.
after.
So I think it's reasonable.
which honestly, it worked well. There's very, very few, I didn't keep count of how many kids were actually tardy the day of or day after, who still were allowed to play. So,
The day of, completely makes sense.
I get that too, yeah, I get that.
Is that a mission rule anyway? We couldn't
have to be in school all day the day of an activity
We
unless
could-
it's pre-approved by administration.
So we couldn't have varied that one. It's the day after.
What a day is determined by the school district. Because some schools, if you're there
An
the
hour.
majority of the day,
You're okay.
if it's a 7-period day and you're there 4, that's a day.
You're okay.
That's not our day, but that's some.
Our day is anytime there's an A for any hour absent, 1 through 7, then you weren't here all day,
You didn't go to first.
unless it was pre-approved.
You didn't go to
So
first.
8th hour, if you get an absence in 8th hour, why did we know about it? If not, you're ineligible. So majority of, almost all of them come from first hour, obviously, if they're gonna be at school or not. But it basically can go through any hour. If you're absent any hour throughout the day, you have to have pre-approval.
And I'm okay with that. It's the day after that. Yeah, as I said, it's a solution looking for a problem.
Any questions? Thanks, Derek.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Norms review.
Yeah, our board norms. So last year, we developed just responsibilities of the board and then our norms. And so I'm just coming into a new year, I just wanted to review those. Goals of the board, or responsibilities of the board are to set goals through our district vision. Policy, employment and evaluation of the superintendent, budget, and then advocacy with educators, our local legislators. The norms that we went up with were, I think they're great, and we haven't revisited them every meeting, but I have posted them on our board agendas. So I just wanted to kind of spend a minute and review, and if there's anything that we wanted to add or change, or we feel like we didn't do, that we need to get rid of, but I feel like we followed the norms.
There's still some of them for me.
Okay, if there's no concerns, we'll continue using
Any
these.
parting shots?
I mean, we could put something like, thou shalt not take a job that conflicts with your board.
What was that?
Thou shalt not take a job that conflicts with your board.
Even if it reduces your stress by like 100%.
Your longevity by 10 years.
Yeah, right.
Where you're like this, what do I do?
For sure.
Well, and one of the things I think, I like what, you don't have it there, but, and it's not the board, but it's what you're doing, and I'm seeing one of the things, that's one of the things that MRTA has been preaching, is telling the good stories. And there is something on Facebook regularly, there's something on the website regularly, and students are being recognized, staff are being recognized. I think that is crucial for public education, and I think I'm hoping, and I'm seeing districts throughout the state do that, but it warms my heart that we're doing it, and I think that's advocacy that's not listed, but.
Well, when I mentioned one of the things that school districts, as far as personnel and positions, because of a variety of legislative things, one of those is communications director. And I've mentioned it before, and last week, NASPRA, which is the National Association of School PR, their conference was in St. Louis. So I've attended a couple of local, of Missouri, school PR communications conferences or clinics. But I just took advantage of a national conference being in St. Louis, and I went last week. And it was phenomenal. I did get some good things, but I left with, we need a PR person. We need a PR communications person, because the amount of time and what they do to it. When we look into, and I think having a person in place before open enrollment, and I say that because I think it'll happen, I've said that for 2 years, but if and when open enrollment happens, having that image already defined and already out there just shifts, because when open enrollment happens, we have to have somebody in the business mindset looking at our school district as a business entity. We have to have those who look at it as an institution of learning, and we also have to have those who are trained to look at it from a PR communication standpoint.
Are there any firms that do consulting work that
There
will
are.
help to do the whole plan, like your
There are.
Facebook plan, and tell you what to?
Yeah, there definitely are, and there's just some really cool, there's just some really neat tools that can be used, that just make it easy and incorporates what we now have as School Messenger, and then we have Facebook, and then we have Twitter, and then we have website. There's tools that incorporate all that and just send it and do it. There's just some neat resources. But the big one that a lot of your schools are doing is to increase community engagement and parent involvement is two-way communications. And there's a lot of different tools and resources that you can just neat things you can put out. How do you feel your child's school year is going this year? And you get immediate feedback from people. And it's anonymous, but it's just temperature of, you know, did you feel enrollment process went easy this year? What can we do to be better? You know, it's just a two-way communication that just changes the way that you operate based on your clientele, your customers. And so it is that shift in mindset of the business side of running a school district, that I don't know how to do that, I'm an educator, you know? So it is something that I desire to have for our district, because I think districts our size, Harrisonville has a communications coordinator and that's it. Center probably does, but I know Odessa, Pleasant Hill, Higginsville, you know, don't have a communications person, so it would just leap us above them already. And in 5 years, every school district will have a communications PR person.
But right now, some positives are, there are a number of advocacy groups, massive superintendents.
Absolutely.
And MOSSP and ESB and the principals groups and counselors groups and SPED groups and so forth. But they're, you know, because right now it's a combat against the negative attention being brought on public education when we're not just about LGBTQ curriculum and 1619 project and critical race theory and teaching sex to kindergartners and fights and drugs. That's not going on in the norm in schools. And one of the things now I'm seeing more and more, like, I mean, just the Minden, the school district northwest of Minden, they received a national award because of the school district. The school district was on site when a wrecked and when a train wreck happened and people died, and they housed them in the gym. They received a national award. They got their school buses out there. Missouri, there were 234 spelling bee in the state, United States. 7 of them came from Missouri. 3 of them made it to finals. One of them was Ryan Fry's son, and Garrett. You know, so those are stories that I think public education. There's so many great things going on in this school district. You know, and that's why, again, the point of that is you probably don't realize when you guys put something on Facebook the difference that makes and how much the attention that gets, and whether it's a new track or the new stuff in the gym or the new coaches or it's good news sells. Still, regardless of what people think, good news sells, and I think we have to. That's part of advocacy that it's not listed there, but I think I appreciate what you guys are doing with Facebook and with the website to put that kind of information out there. That's good stuff.
I just wonder if an entree into it is a contracting with a firm and then figuring out what a position, how would you craft that position, and then, because there's plenty, I think, that do that.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into it. You know, there's so many layers of communication. You know, social media is obviously one.
But just even releases, or if there's an incident, or, you know, just even getting someone other than you that's able to draft that.
As a side job, somebody that's their focus.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. Administrative update wise, we did purchase another minivan, so we put that back into the budget and hope to do so every year. We had one go to the graveyard. I was trying to figure out the right term. So it's actually still sitting in front of.
Is that one of the surplus ones, or no? It's a different one?
No, it was an extra. It was an additional that just decided it's done. So put the one whichever one died on there.
Oh no, that's Van 3. It was a surplus. It was in the surplus group.
Oh, it was, okay. So we did purchase another one, which will be used. It was a great opportunity. Ryan did get USAC granting. You wanna tell them what you're getting with that? What we got today, was that what?
I got 400 Chromebooks that are gonna be completely free.
USAC it stands for something fancy.
Of course, it's lingo.
It's a federal
Education
grant.
acronym.
Federal grant for technology.
Yeah, so 400
Did you
Chromebooks.
firewall for that too?
And no, well, that was for E-rate.
Oh, yeah.
E-rate, we received a funding letter for E-rate. We've got the firewall in, that'll be funded, and then the Switch project is still waiting on the funding letter for that.
What was the 152,000? Is that what it was for
Yep.
USAC? So that's awesome.
400 Chromebooks, that's about 20% of our
Yep.
current.
They'll probably replace all the high school ones, and we'll move those, just trickle down. Yep.
Awesome.
So we're
There you go.
sitting
Yeah.
really good shape on Chromebooks right now
That's
for
great.
grade one projects.
And then we received the official notice from Jackson County Children's Service Fund for our Trauma Smart training. So Trauma Smart is put on through Crittenton, and so it's a 3-year grant, which next year elementary and primary staff will be trained. The second year, middle school and high school will be trained, and then the third year is consulting. And so it's 20 hours for the training through the school year. So it's a lot of time, dedicated to this training, but then their staff, they have consultants that come and watch and observe our staff and just work with them on identifying trauma and how to address behaviors through a trauma lens. So we're excited about that opportunity. I think it will help our teachers really understand some of the mental health issues that our students are facing as well. So
And that's not just their teachers, it's the whole staff,
Yeah, all
anybody
staff.
that comes in contact with
All
children,
staff.
it's a whole building
parents,
wide
secretaries,
initiative.
everybody.
Awesome.
Nice to get something positive from Jackson County.
I'll tell you what, it's the best fun if you look at it.
It really is. And, so it's the 4th cent sales tax that was on the ballot, and what kind of brought into Giovanna's position is it was originally on just for 5 years, a
7
sunset?
years and 1/8 of a cent.
It was, okay, and it was a sunset, and then this past November, was it, that they voted, so there's no sunset now, so.
And it's a quarter cent. so
The
definitely
amount
it's fun.
of funds that it's for youth in Jackson County.
So,
awesome.
mental health.
It's fantastic, yep. That's all.
Last thing on the agenda is our next meeting date, which is August 28th. We will actually start at 5:45 to have the setting of the tax levy.
So we originally were going to do, we're originally going to do the tax levy August 28th, but we're not. We're gonna do it in September. So so Jackson County, we're in a unique situation because we are Johnson, Lafayette, and Jackson. And Johnson and Lafayette have a August 30th deadline for their tax rate, and Jackson is a month later. But I found out today in my meeting that other superintendents who are split and have Jackson County, that they go with Jackson County State and they just notify the other counties. So that additional month this year will greatly help us. Hopefully Board of Equalization is done or close to done by then. Or hopefully we get an update. We're just hoping that that additional month gives us something more. So we do not need to have our tax levy set yet. So we will meet on August 28th, but we will set tax levy in September.
So 6 p.m.
Yes.
August 28th.
7 for open.
Yes.
7, 6, okay.
Yeah, same times.
And also for clarification, I don't work for the county.
Just to put that on the
Good for you.
record.
Although you would be a major upgrade
Yeah.
from what I've seen.
When will the 2-week window start for the?
As soon as we get the add-ins, and we could get that
Yeah.
tomorrow, so. Yeah, well, we wouldn't get it in, I don't know, when do we have to have it in by to get
You
in?
got it in by noon.
By noon tomorrow?
I would, give them a call at
Okay.
9 o'clock.
It's
Okay.
Tuesday,
Yeah, it is
Yep.
Tuesday.
It's a rough day for them we're at the paper on Tuesday.
It's Monday though.
Yeah.
Or maybe Tom does.
See, if you had a communication director, you'd probably just
Right.
have that taken care of.
Press release.
Right?
We'll get it figured out,
It has to be on the website, I think, for the policy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
and we'll get on social media. Okay. Maybe do that.
Just make sure, interest must be received.
And we'll email you, but by, I guess we'll give them.
2 weeks after the day,
Yeah,
that's what the
we'll
policy
give
says.
them, I'll maybe do the Friday before the next board meeting.
It's what we did before, yeah, okay. And then you shot them to us that early that, yeah.
And I'll try to get it, I'll get with Christine, she can include it in the board packet or whatever.
Okay. All right.
Okay, seeing nothing else on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would motion to adjourn.